Hello and thanks for tuning in to Me and My Golf. We're your coaches, Piers and Andy. We hope you've had a fantastic weekend. It's Monday. Andy, Impact Show, what are we talking about?
We have a cracker today. We're going to give you 5 tips to help you break 80. Don't go anywhere. Let's take charge of your game.
Now, Andy, September. A lot of people watching this now will be aware that we have the themes of the month at meandmygolf.com. Really excited with September because it's all about the long game. So we've got loads of content about the long game. Obviously today's video, there's long game elements in it, but also for last month, really successful month as well, talking about lowering your golf scores.
Yeah.
So we had the video series, Simple Secrets to Lower Scores. Make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it already. Still some time left in the season to lower your scores, lower your handicap and reach your goals. So make sure you check out that great video series. Now Andy, breaking 80. People would like to do that, wouldn't they? That's obviously a pretty big landmark. I'd like to do that most of the time. That's a pretty good landmark to reach, isn't it? So we've had a lot of success with the other video series we've done, the other videos we've done on breaking 100 and breaking 90. We had to do this, didn't we?
Yeah, and loads of you guys commented and say that you've broke 100 or 90 for the first time, and that's great for us because ultimately this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create these tips that's ultimately going to help you reach your goals. And I think, you know, one thing that we've read in the comments is you guys are saying, well, okay, I've broke 90, can I break 80 now? So what we're going to do today is bring you some really good tips today that really should, if you've watched break 100 and break 90, I think those are important to watch as well. If you haven't seen those, make sure you check those out. But today's tips really are going to help you definitely get under that 80 mark. Some really key ones, Piers, as well.
Okay, should we get into tip 1?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Taking out the trouble. Now Andy, it's amazing how many people play golf without a strategy. Even good level players trying to break 80 don't actually have a strategy. So if you play a golf course or you're a member of a golf course that you know you're going to play regularly, get yourself a course planner and actually work out your strategy well in advance so you have all the options there ready for when you're playing the golf course. If you're playing the golf course for the first time, we recommend the first thing you do, go and get a course planner in the shop and spend maybe 5-10 minutes looking through that and planning out a pretty quick mini strategy. But Andy, if you haven't got a strategy, it's going to be very hard to break 80. So, you know, we're going to go through your strategy in a moment, but just really, we can't stress this enough. Take the time to get that strategy, and it just gives you a lot more confidence when you're about to play the game, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And look, the key thing is really what we're looking at here is making the best decisions out on the golf course. And as you mentioned, Piers, taking out the trouble. Now, we're on a par 4 here, and for a lot of guys who play golf on a regular basis, they get to a par 4 and they just ultimately go, okay, it's driver. Without really any thought. And then after the round, Piers, they go, well, I went in the fairway bunker on that. And you hear the top level players doing this, I made poor decisions. So look, if we can improve your decision making before you get out there and have a plan, taking out the trouble. So in some circumstances, like we're going to talk about in a moment, it's not always driver. I'm going to pick the best club that's going to put me in the best, safest position to actually attack the flag. And if we can do that throughout the whole course, you're going to find that your scores are going to be lower and you're going to save a lot of shots, Piers.
Yeah, and so many people attach blame to the wrong part of their game. You know, I'm rubbish out of fairway bunkers. Well, don't put it in there. Yeah. If you've got a good strategy, then you're going to be okay. So I know you've got a couple of options here, Andy, because obviously you have the ability to actually hit this green here, so you can hit a driver. What would you do with the driver?
Well, look, let's just quickly take a look at the yardage. This is off a slightly forward tee. I've got 270 yards to the middle of the green. So look, I can reach with the driver. Now, if I went for the green with the driver, if we take a look at this first of all, look, the hole here, I would actually, safe place to be is left side of the green. Right, you don't want to miss it. So if I did go with the driver, I'd be aiming it roughly left side of the green at that tree and maybe hitting a little fade. If I hit it straight, it's safe. If I hit it with a fade, it's on the green, which is good. Now, to stress the point of actually sort of having a little bit of a different strategy, Piers, I'm going to actually look here at the sort of widest part of the fairway. Now, if I wanted to hit the fairway here, I've got some bunkers to deal with. Now, the bunkers here, to clear these ones in front of me, I have, just quickly check that on here, I have 185 yards to clear these first 2 bunkers. Okay. And then I've got 241 to the far bunker on the left and 230 yards to the bunker on the right. So I've got a bit of a gap there to hit in between.
Pretty big gap, actually.
Quite a big gap. So if I hit 4-iron to clear the bunker on the left, I'm taking out the bunkers. Yep. I'm getting it over there, leaving myself in a good position to play the shot, and the bunkers aren't in danger. If I, let's say a mid-handicap pair, stand on here, hit driver, hit it in the bunker without real thought, then they're in trouble. So I'm really just positioning myself in a good place on there to really give myself the best chance possible.
So the good thing with this is you're looking for a 210 to 225 yard tee shot, and we know it's going to stop quickly because it goes uphill. But the good thing with this is then as well, you have maybe an 80
yard shot, yeah.
70, 90 yard pitch, depending on what angle you're coming in from. You're going to make a par more often than not here, aren't you? So let's see you play this shot. So
it's interesting on this hole, Pierce, when we obviously do a lot of filming here, and guys step on this tee and we see them get driver out and they get sucked into hitting the driver towards the green, end up in the rough, instead of looking at the widest part of the fairway and hitting it into that part.
Yeah. Which is another very valid point there. Drivable par fours, you know, if you didn't go for it every time, you'd probably be more consistent with scoring.
So I'm going to go pretty much just over the right-hand corner of that left bunker, widest part of the fairway there, 4 iron, and it's just a safe play, Pierce.
Simple.
Again there, no problem at all there. That's just on the left-hand side of the fairway. And again, I've left myself now a nice pitch in there, took out the bunkers. We've got a chance of making birdie.
Easy.
So if you want to break 80, we have to talk about putting, and specifically really, Pierce, we're going to talk about holing out these close ones, whether it be for saving par or actually making birdie, just getting the ball in the hole. Now, Pierce, we know that actually the most important thing, aside from pace, is really being able to start the golf ball on your intended target line. If we can do that and get the face back to a good, consistent position, especially on these short ones, we're going to hole more putts. Now, I don't see many golfers practice this, so we're going to show the guys at home a great drill to actually train a consistent strike and impact to get the face starting on that target line, aren't we?
That is exactly what we need. We need to get that club face. That is the most responsible for the starting direction on these short putts. It is the most important thing.
So we've got a few things set up here. Pierce, talk us through these two. We've got another thing here which can be used as well.
There's lots of different ways you can do it. I mean, sometimes we have some tee pegs with string on it. We have a chalk pen, as you have there. But what we've gone with here is we've got a couple of tee pegs in the ground halfway on my journey to the hole, obviously enough room for the golf ball to go through them, the tee peg gate, and then we've got an alignment stick in the ground. This is quite a cool alignment stick called Alignment Stick Pro. Really like this because what it does is, obviously it's got some gauges on it, which is great, but I can, from this position now, it really suits me because I like to get my eyes over the golf ball. It allows me to see the line of the putt better, so I know that if I can get my eyes over there, so the middle of the golf ball, the alignment stick is running through the middle of the golf ball and the alignment stick, I know that I'm lined up.
Yeah.
So if I now miss anything, it's pretty much because my face alignment is going to be the problem when I strike the golf ball. So I'm setting myself up ready to obviously attempt.
And you're going to see straight away, if you pull it, you're going to see that the ball's going to start left and go left of the stick. If you push it, obviously you've got that. But you've also got a couple of tee pegs out there as well, making it even harder. So you've got two things that's really tightening up your dispersion.
Yes.
So if you can sort of start to get groove, get returning the club back to a consistent position, we're going to hold more putts, like Pierce is going to hopefully demonstrate here. So straight through on the first one.
Straight through in the first
one. And
one.
we're going to let him have a go at a few of these. And I think, look, we've set this up as a pretty flat putt, just to give him a benchmark to work from. We're really just working on the stroke here and how repeatable he can get that face back to square. 2 out of 2. We're going to make him hit all 4 just to see his consistency here. But this is something that you can set up quite easily before you go out on the golf course. A couple of tee pegs if you haven't got an alignment stick. But as we've seen, 3 out of 3 there. Okay, no pressure on the last one.
No pressure's on. This is to break 80.
This is to break 80, this last one.
Now, obviously, unfortunately, you can't do this on the golf course. But as we've said, it is a perfect little sort of station for you to condition, get in that alignment. Oh, that was close. That
nearly had a wobble there.
But it's a really good station to condition getting good face alignment when you're striking the golf ball. It works on lots of other things as well. But what we recommend is that you do this. Don't spend hours doing this. Move to another hole. Maybe surround one of the other holes here with 10 golf balls and play some sort of game. So, you know, do 10 shots here, then move to another hole and do 10 putts around the hole, then move back to this one. Keep alternating between the two. You'll then work at your face alignment when you're striking the putts, and then you'll condition it with a little bit of a game as well.
4 out of 4, that was pretty good, that was.
That was impressive, wasn't it? Hope for me yet. Pitch perfect. Now, we're not saying that you have to be a perfect pitcher to break 80, but it sure would help if you're more consistent, especially with your distance control. Now, Andy, this is a shot that requires a lot of practice. So the first thing we would obviously say to you guys is, look, get out there and practice your distance control, your yardages, whether it be on the range or on the golf course. So that is obviously something that would be beneficial to you. A lot of people, Andy, say to us they don't really get enough time to practice that, the pitching element. They want to work at their long game. Yeah. So what we always say to people is, well, there is a more predictable, consistent way to pitch with your technique, isn't there? So what sort of things are we looking for? So number one, obviously, practice lots. Number two is develop a technique which is a little bit more consistent, a little bit more deliverable, especially under pressure. So what sort of things are we looking for when we're doing this?
Well, look, I think some of the key things, Pierce, that golfers struggle with, first of all, when they come to pitch shots, their interaction with the ground isn't consistent, the trajectory and the height isn't consistent that they get as well, and the judging the distance isn't consistent. So if we can control a good loft when we hit the golf ball consistently, get a good interaction with the ground, so using the sole of the club very good, that's going to help us judge the distance, and that's going to really, and then ultimately really controlling the speed then is key, Pierce.
So you're talking strike, and you're talking a consistent loft?
Yes.
Okay, and there's ways of doing that, and there's ways of actually being inconsistent with those as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
So what are we looking for?
Well, look, if you've got limited time, this is where this makes a big difference, because it just makes you more consistent, and you can do this with limited practice time. So what we're really looking at doing here is really controlling the wrists a little more. So we're actually going to hit some shots feeling that we've actually almost got dead hands, Pierce, that we're not really creating too much wrist set in the backswing, because if we can have a swing with a pitch shot that really has limited wrist movements, there's not creating too much angles. The great thing about this is it helps deliver the club using the sole nicely with a consistent loft to create that consistent trajectory. Ultimately as well, it's going to help control the speed that we want as well, by limiting too much sort of unwanted independent movement of the club head. If we can keep things moving together like this, then things are going to be so much easier.
So it's kind of we have to sort of mention someone, Steve Stricker.
Yes.
I mean, he's pretty much considered to be one of the best wedge players in the game for a long time now. This is very much like his action, isn't it?
It is, and you know what you're going to notice with this sort of shot is that the loft is going to be nice and high, the ball's going to come out soft, and the interaction with the ground is going to be minimal. It's going to sort of glide, as we've talked about in so many other videos. We're going to get the sole of the club to sort of glide across the ground.
The good thing with this is you can actually do this with any of your wedges, whether it's your most lofted wedge or whether it's your gap wedge, you know, anywhere in between those two clubs. You know, you've got a pretty consistent technique now, using the club properly, or what we say properly, more consistently, I would say. All right, should we see you play one here? What we got, about 50 yards here?
Yeah, just under 50 yards. I'm just again got my 58 degree here. Again, just dead hands, hardly any interaction with the ground, and it'll land pretty softly, this one will. You can see I sort of nipped that one off there, Pierce, nicely. Soft landing, ball's pretty close there, and you can see, look at the ground. No sort of turf there, but a real nice solid strike on the club face.
And you can see that is definitely going to be more consistent. You almost took more grass with your practice swing.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Take charge of your emotions. Like what I did there, Pierce.
Very good.
Look, the best players in the world are in control of their emotions. They don't let their emotions control them. This is the key thing when you're on the golf course. If you want to break 80, you need to be able to deal with your poor shots and your poor holes. You need to be able to move on and focus on what's ahead, because you can always salvage something from the round. So the first thing to understand is that you're always going to hit bad shots on the golf course. So I think when they come, you need to be able to deal with them and actually move on and focus on the rest of the round. Now, Pierce, let's take Jordan Spieth, for example, at the Open this year. 13th hole, driver, hands on the head moment, ball's like 80 yards offline. He could have let that affect his next few holes, but he put it behind him and focused on what he had to do ahead. A lot of golfers we see would be talking about that shot 1, 2, 3 holes later, and that would have a negative effect on their game. So I think the first thing is to understand that, look, holding on to that emotion or letting your emotions control you will have a negative effect on the golf course for your round. So if you have the tools, Pierce, to actually work at these on the golf course, you can work and identify when these happen. And if you're working on your emotions, it's going to have a positive effect on your score, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. And I think, look, keep it as simple as possible. Be aware how maybe something to do is listen to what other people say as well, and actually figure out maybe they're doing things wrong as well. Don't tell them, obviously, but to work on it yourself, the best way to do this is to score yourself. So a scorecard in hand, whether you're marking a competition score or just having a friendly, have a scorecard, and when you complete a hole without showing a poor emotional moment, you can put a circle around it. So every time you complete a hole without a poor emotional moment, put a circle around the hole. And if you can do that 18 times in a row, obviously playing 18 holes, fantastic. If you can do that 3 rounds in a row, fantastic. And guess what? Guarantee you pretty much, unless the rest of the game is horrible, that you will get very close to breaking 80 just by controlling your emotions, but you will just start to enjoy your rounds more, and you will just be a lot more consistent when you're playing golf. So get yourself a scorecard, get yourself a Sharpie, and mark some circles.
Definitely. I think that what I like about that also is it takes your attention away from the score, Pierce.
Yes,
you're really working on yourself on the golf course, and if you work on yourself, hopefully you're going to see that in the scores as well.
And that in itself can actually help you break 80.
So Pierce, you're almost there. You've nearly broke 80. You need 2 pars to finish on the 17th now, par 5. You need a go-to shot. We need to get you hitting the fairway, and we talk about this a lot. A go-to shot is a shot that you need under pressure where you can get the ball in play to give yourself a chance. Now, the first thing is really you need to recognise and understand what is your go-to shot.
Yes.
What does the ball flight look like? Is it low? Is it high? Does it draw? Does it fade? And I think once you recognise that, Pierce, then you really have the tools then to start putting it into practice when you're on the range to make sure you develop that and you're consistent with it. But also, what club does it look like as well? So what club do you tend to use for that go-to shot? It doesn't always have to be a driver on a par 5. You may feel more confident getting a rescue or a 3-wood in play. So Pierce, let's talk about your go-to shot. You're under pressure, you need a par up here. What are you going to go to club-wise, and what is your go-to shot that you need to get in play, and why?
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do first of all is tell you why I select this style of shot. So I think everyone who's watching this will probably be aware of their natural shape. So it's best to develop their go-to shot around their natural shape, if that makes sense. So if you fade the golf ball, then make it a fade. So I recently worked this year on maybe not so much drawing the golf ball, actually working at playing a little bit of a fade. So that straight away goes into my go-to shot. So I want to play a fade, and I'm going to go with the driver as well, because it's a club that I will feel comfortable with. It's a club that I will use a lot when I'm playing golf. So that is why I choose that one. It may be a 3-wood, it may be a 2-iron, a rescue, even a 4-iron off the tee, but you just need to have that go-to shot that you practice. So straight away for me then, driver is perfect. Now if I'm playing a fade on this hole here, I want to tee up on the right hand side of the tee. So that's going to give me a better view down the left hand side to then hit a fade. And actually the good thing with this hole, it actually works perfectly because it's a very narrow fairway, but it does slope from left to right, and it has got a slight dog leg on the landing area. So it works perfectly for the fade on that. Okay. Now, when I'm hitting this shot as well, I'm going to add a little bit extra into it. I'm just going to tee the golf ball a little bit lower. That does 2 things for me. It makes me fade it, and also it lowers the ball flight a little bit. So I'm actually going for a low fade. So that will be my absolute go-to shot. So teeing it a little lower. Just check the tee height on that there. So you can see from back there, you can hardly see the golf ball now behind that. Picking my target, which is the left-hand bunker, and I'm imaging that low fade as I play the shot in my mind. All right, here we go.
Okay, you need it the fairway then, Pierce, here. So
need to hit the fairway.
This is where the pressure starts building up to break that 80. So I'm sure you can do it then.
Low tee height, going to fade it, and I'll probably take a little bit of effort level out of the shot. 2 order, look at that.
And that is actually perfect, Pierce.
And that's actually good because that was about creating a result, and that was the best shot for me to do. If I'd have said play a high draw, might not have done it.
There we go. So figure out what your go-to shot is. Maybe it's a different club. Figure that out, guys. Make sure you practice it, and you will need that under pressure if you want to break 80. So there you have it, 5 tips to help you break 80. We hope you enjoyed them. Look, make sure that you don't just watch those, put those into action. We want you to work at those, and if you do, and make sure you check out the 100 and the 92, if you put all those steps into action, we guarantee your scores will get lower.
Indeed they will. Now look, if you're really serious about improving those scores and you want even more information, why don't you go to meandmygolf.com and check out Simple Secrets to Lower Scores. Click that link in the corner, it'll take you straight there. We know you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching, see you soon.